Well, I had sort of said it probably would not be too long before the Greens, well, had some national media attention, probably of quite a negative type. I've said it before, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the Green Party that just goes massively underreported because they only had one MP. Now they've got four. Now they are constantly crowing about, oh my God, look at how many places we were second in all these constituencies. How many more MPs could we get next time, guys? And guess what? With that comes, actual, scrutiny of, positions that, people in the party hold. We saw the whole thing break out about how their co-leader is an absolute NIMBY and does not want pylons, which, if you are to get the green energy from the North Sea onshore, you need to build pylons. Otherwise, you are then saying, well, actually, we need underground pylons, and they cost infinitely more than the pylons that you would need to build. So there are a lot of stuff. We've talked before about their NATO stance, their crazy plan to end the war in Ukraine by somehow exchanging missiles in Poland, and somehow that makes Putin withdraw his troops from Ukraine. Honestly, it was only a matter of time before people started looking beneath the rocks as to what's going on in the Green Party. And lo and behold, today, turns out that for all their talk of building sort of progressive alliances and sort of being progressive in politics, turns out the Greens do not practice what they preach. Because it turns out recently in one area where Green Party members united on the tactical voting to try and get rid of Jeremy Hunt, guess what's happening to those members who did not vote Green Party to try and get rid of Jeremy Hunt? Anyway, before we do get on into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Buy Me Coffee link, YouTube thank you button, and the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on into this, shall we? Yeah, this comes from The Guardian with the title of "The Greens are expelling activists for uniting to oust Jeremy Hunt. So much for progressive politics." So, if the Green Party cannot practice a kinder, more thoughtful politics, who can? Last week, the Green Party activists in Surrey were summarily expelled from the party for doing everything necessary to beat the incumbent Tory, one Jeremy Hunt. So, when these people engaged in tactical voting, which, bear in mind, many people in the Labour, Lib Dems have, I haven't seen them boot anyone out for this. So, I think it is a massive stupid move, but I think it also exposes them really for what they are as a party. But there you go. So this was, without question, without debate, or even about ability to respond. So, wow, they cannot even put in a counterclaim on this. 3 local members who had worked very hard for the party and then built cross-party alliances were given a straight 5-year expulsion. So let's find out more about this. So here's the backstory. Deep in the heart of True Blue Surrey, a small but determined outpost of Compass members brought together like-minded people from Labour, the Liberal Democrats, and Green to knock down the tribal walls to help put a progressive candidate win. I am the director of Compass, which pushes for progressive alliances in pursuit of a good society. And in Surrey, in 2017, the election was an almost successful in doing so. They backed the National Health Action Plan candidate against Hunt, the then Health Secretary, who again came much closer to winning than Hunt actually found comfortable. Come the election, the activists will then determine to build on this work, replacing Hunt with the best placed progressive, who was Paul Fellows, the Liberal Democrat council leader. His deputy leader, Steve Williams, was to be the Green Party candidate, but his local party decided he should stand aside and give Fellows a free run. So much for the new politics. Now came the old. Williams did the decent thing and told the National Green Party 24 hours before the deadline of the local decision. But in response, behind the backs of local organisers, Green HQ imposed another candidate. This would be a London-based party staffer. Off the back of the hard work of the local, now expelled Greens, this paper-thin candidate got more than 1,000 votes. The impact was a perfectly counterproductive to the aims, and Hunt held his seat by 891 votes. So if the Green Party HQ had not imposed that local candidate, there is a very, very good chance Jeremy Hunt would have lost his seat. Sums it all up, really, doesn't it? Then things got worse. Williams and others then received their expulsion notices for publicly backing the Lib Dem colleague. At a stroke, Green presence on the council was slashed. The Greens nationally sent a message that local party democracy and cooperation were to be crushed. And bear in mind, this is not the first time Greens have done something like this. I keep on bringing it up, but Greens for HS2 exposed the fact that if HS2 was going through your constituency or your area and you were a Green councillor who went to a consultancy meeting or engaged anything like that with HS2, you would be expelled from the party. So this is not an exception, as people are going to claim. This is not an exception. This happens. This happens all the time in this party. So it continues. It justified its decision by claiming that the national motion to stand in every seat supersedes local decisions. The party had leeway to let local members go ahead with their plan, just as it didn't have to expel men. Pardon me. Just as it didn't have to expel them. It chose to impose and then crack down. Of course, the Greens deserve sympathy. The electoral system does weigh heavily against them, and neither Labour nor the Lib Dems will enter into any cooperation agreements. But the response that if you can't beat them, join them by expelling members who put country before party is a miserable dead end. However tough it is, part of the purpose of the Greens is to demonstrate that a politics of cooperation and pluralism is essential to meet the complex challenges of the 21st century, a politics of proportional representation, which the Greens advocate for. This demands cross-party cooperation. Couldn't agree any more with those words. If you are to really achieve PR, you need cross-party cooperation. And I am a big advocate for cross-party representation and cross parties working together to achieve things. But what the Greens did here does not signal that. It signals something far, far worse. As was said there, you know, any cross-party activity or anything like that is to be crushed and weeded out. So the Greens could be accused of being hypocrites. You can't encourage tactical support in seats where you could benefit and then deny it, whereas it serves other anti-Tory progressives. You can't then credibly turn a blind eye to tactical voting, expect it to only be done in private, then expel dedicated party activists who stood aside for the greater good in a general election that favours established parties, not least when the party itself was only targeting 4 seats in the country. And that's true as well. The Greens made no end when they were, you know, bigging this up that these are our Fab 4. We are going to get these 4 seats. These are the 4 seats we are contesting. Why on earth would you then decide to put in another candidate where, they said, hey, we're going to stand down because we want to support this candidate who could win and beat Jeremy Hunt. If those 1,000 Green Party voters had voted for the Lib Dem candidate and engaged in tactical voting, there would be no more Jeremy Hunt. He would not be an MP. It would have been a massively embarrassing moment for the Tory party. But instead, the Greens let that happen. And it is not the first time that they have done something like that. So, the tectonic plates of British party politics are now breaking up all around us. Labour won 63% of the seats, but only on 34% of the votes in the general election. Its majority is now broad, but only skin deep and oh so brittle. Turnout was down by 52%. The only permanent feature of party politics from now on will be the incredible churn and volatility allied with the threat of authoritarianism. The response of the old politics now is to hold on tighter than ever, to control and expel. But activists and voters who are way ahead of the tribalists. What activists were trying to achieve in Surrey is now necessary if we are to sidestep the descent into anti-democracy of right-wing populism. Perhaps after winning 4 seats, the Greens felt vindicated, rightly so, but the point of the party is to be different. Crucially, it must now know that those means always shape ends, and the future that we want will not always be imposed by the ruthless centre of any party, but negotiated and created for by all of us. The flame of a new political hope is now just starting to burn, but it will be stomped out if the National Party chooses control over cooperation. And I think that needs to be said more and more often. I think Neil Lawson here is exactly right in what he says about the Greens. It is nothing new. If you know anything about them, if you've looked at all the stuff that we've just said, brought up on here, again, go read the massive blog that was written by Greens for HS2 about what happened to them. Look up the stuff about what went on in Sheffield. There's just a ton of stuff that the Greens have done over the years and that they have shown. And this, honestly, I think goes to show you that when it comes to tactical voting, if it's not in their favor, they ain't interested. And I think that sends a really bad message, a really, really, really bad message on so many fronts. So, as always, let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.